Kogan. We're going to be analyzing another document today, and this is, I mean, even though this is a great piece, a lot of what we're going to need to know, and probably what we're going to read in this document, we're going to find in the title, which was Life in the Shop, the Story of an Immigrant Garment Worker by Clara Lemlich. And this was a piece that was first published in the New York Evening Journal, November 28, 1909. So from there.
You know, I always like to source first.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes when they source, they might give you a little bit of historical context for you. This one, we have to think about it.
Yeah.
What's going on in our country in 1909. Ellis Island's been opened up for almost 20 years. We are getting millions of immigrants coming over. They're working in cities, factories, unskilled laboring jobs. So we can, knowing this and the title Life in a Shop, a Story of an Immigrant Garment Worker, we can almost predict what's going to be said.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see this as being one of these Disney types of stories.
Maybe the beginning. Maybe the beginning where Cinderella is in rags or Snow White or one of them. I don't remember.
Cinderella, she was in rags, and that'll pretty much probably be it throughout the entire story.
I honestly, I haven't even read this yet. I bet she's going to talk about working long hours, in terrible conditions, not being paid, and then maybe even be locked in.
So even to just kind of tie in some vocabulary words. Now you're talking about the population going up in cities. Now we have urbanization. You know, that movement from farms to cities where there are a lot of jobs available to either immigrants or unskilled work. Steady.
You know, that is why people would leave the farms, because there were too many variables outside of your control. Weather, rain, soil, diseases, crop, insects killing your crops. Variables outside of your control, where you knew if I worked in a factory and I work 10 hours a day and I make $2 a day, I'm making X amount of money per month.
So that's probably what's going to be covered in this. However, the thing is that it's one thing to go, okay, this is what I can anticipate on reading. It's another thing to actually get those words from somebody who was either from that time event. I mean, you know, you don't get to a world war or any type of war, but there's a lot of death and everything. But, you know, to get that person's experience does tell you a lot about how that was. And so looking at this, you know, we do get an idea, or you do have an idea right at this point, is that during this time period, you know, regulations, labor laws, really not that existent.
Yep.
And we're going to see how, you know, big business owners exploited that.
And even the fact that this was published, we are in the progressive reform era.
Yep.
So whoever Clara Lemlich is, she's probably trying to bring to light life in the factories.
So let's see what we got. Let's read the first one. We already see some numbers. We kind of have an idea where we're going. First, let me tell you something about the way we work and what we are paid. There are two kinds of work: regular, that is salary work, and piece work. The regular work pays about $6 a week, and the girls have to be at their machines at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they stay at them until 8 o'clock at night, with just 1/2 hour for lunch in that time.
All right. So you're working
our prediction's correct.
13-hour day with a half-hour lunch break for $6 a week. Not $6 an hour, that's $6 a day, $6 a week.
And this is a majority of them are women.
Yep.
We go to the title of this. You know, garment's going to be referring to clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing by machines, they mean sewing machines.
Yep.
And these are mostly going to be women sewing. When we're looking at factory jobs, a lot of these jobs in factories, you did have a lot of them, I guess you could say, dominated by men.
Mm-hmm.
And until you get to certain fields where it was kind of, you know, from a gender standpoint, or, you know, you had a mix of men and women. Here you had, this is a predominantly a woman's job.
Yep.
So let's just see here. The shops. Well, there is just one row of machines that the daylight ever gets to. That is the front row, nearest the window. The girls at all the other rows of machines back in the shops have to work by gaslight, by day as well as by night. Oh yes, the shops keep the work going at night too. So you're laughing.
I'm laughing, being the son of a New York City firefighter.
Yeah.
That we are in a garment factory.
Yep.
Where there are yards upon yards upon yards of fabric, probably cotton.
Yep.
And they're working by a gaslight, which is a flame lit by some sort of oil or kerosene or gasoline. Okay.
Are you, at this point in time, it's 1909, is there smoking allowed in the workplace at this point?
Yes, there is.
Probably, yep.
And the fact that,
There's a lot, I mean, because there's a number of ways to look at this. You know, you can look at this as historians and go, wow, this is really unfortunate to, you know, the people. And then, of course, when you bring in, people who are looking at labor laws or lack thereof, or safety situations. There is a lot that you can see might be going on in just those two sentences.
Mm-hmm.
You know, firefighters, what are they going to be worried about? A high occupancy in this particular area, row upon row. That means that you're not going to have easy access to a door.
Right.
Whoever's running this factory, whoever the owner is concerned about profit. He's probably no fire extinguishers. Probably wasn't a law to have them in there.
Probably wasn't.
It's usually something that's good to have, but they're not going to spend money on it because they're concerned about profit. It's going to stink. Those windows of all these
Fresh
people
air,
are crammed in there.
ventilation.
Disease and sicknesses spreading really easy.
Yep.
Woo!
All right.
Again, it's like we didn't really need to move on beyond
No.
the title.
No.
However,
Let's do it anyway.
it's always good to see what's going on.
Oh, look, there's more.
Oh boy. The bosses in the shops are hardly what you would call educated men, and the girls to them are part of the machines they are running. They yell at the girls and they berate them. There are no dressing rooms for the girls in the shops. They have to hang up their hats and coats, such as they are, on hooks along the walls. Sometimes a girl has a new hat. It never is too much to look at because it never costs more than 50 cents. That means that we have gone for a week on 2 lunches, dry cake, and nothing else. So, being berated by your
You're
boss.
being yelled at, berated. I would even say sexually harassed
Of
at
course,
some point.
absolutely.
To add to all the clutter, now there's no lockers to put your personal belongings in. You're putting your personal belongings on walls. I would imagine that they were walking away. By that I mean being stolen by other workers
absolutely.
or the factory owners.
I mean, when we talk about the way you're speaking to your employees, do you have to redirect them? Do you sometimes need to speak up to them? Yeah, of course. But today, anytime you start a job, as part of that workplace safety, you have sexual harassment training, how to treat your workers in the workplace. So that awareness or that, hey, be nice to other people in the workplace, it doesn't exist. I mean, that's probably in our lifetime that you start to see those introduced in the workplace. All right, let's go on here. The shops are unsanitary. That's the word that is generally used. But there ought to be a worse one used. Whenever we tear or damage any of the goods we sew on, or whenever it is found damaged after we are through with it, whether we have done it or not, we are charged for the piece and sometimes for a whole yard of the material. At the beginning of every slow season, $2 is deducted from our salaries. We have never been able to find out what this is for. Wow.
So if anything that's being made is ripped or broken, even if they didn't do it, they're deducted or they're charged for it.
Yeah.
And then if at a slow season, let's just pay them less.
$2 is already deducted from their salaries. They're never gonna, and they were never told for. I mean, this day and age, when you get a paycheck and they show you how much you made, and then there's all the deductions. They show you, federal tax, your state tax, your pension,
Health insurance,
dues, health insurance, all that stuff. There's a breakdown of here's what you were. This is what was taken out. You're informed. It's explained to you. It's in a document. Here, it's $2 is taken out. You don't even know what it's for.
And by this $2, I don't know if she means a week. Are they going from 6 a week to 4 a week? That's a third of their salary being deducted.
That is what's being left out.
Yeah.
Now, this particular shop, when we're talking about garment workers, this is taken right from the Triangle Shirtwaist factory, where by now we probably have gotten to the Triangle Shirtwaist factory fire that took place a couple of years after. You had 154 killed, and you had a lot of people who jumped to their death rather than get burned alive. So these are the conditions on the outside, and of course when we look at the Triangle Shirtwaist factory fire, there's a lot of images that you see of people who were dead on the concrete who jumped, and they had to identify them, and the coffins on the street where family members had to come and identify them. So that's what we saw. This gives you an idea of what was going on years leading up to it, and it's going to give you an idea of just how dangerous
It
the
probably
conditions
got worse
were.
and worse and worse
Absolutely.
as the owners were like, all right, we can fit 20 people in here. Let's see if we can get 30.
Yep.
Let's see if we can get 40. Because the more people in, the more profit.
Yep.
And all the building codes that will come out of the changes that will come out of the disaster.
And to give you an idea, I mean, this is kind of what we might, not a time appropriate photo for it, but this is kind of what we're talking about here.
Yep.
That, as a New York City firefighter's son, looking at all of this highly flammable, combustible fabrics that
Scraps
can
on the
easily
floor,
burn.
and if
Yeah.
you're working by a gas light, it's
Yep. Yeah, really.
disaster waiting to happen, which unfortunately does happen.
So, I mean, what was I going to say on that one? Yeah, but you did get a good idea of just how this was years leading up to this. This was a recipe for disaster.
Yep.
All right, good.
And as we'll learn, disasters do bring about change. Unfortunately, we have to wait for the disaster to bring about
But
such
when we
change.
look about all the changes
Yeah.
that we just were able to kind of like go
This
through.
this document almost sums up the entire labor movement. Between work hours, working conditions, pay,
and again,
treatment of their
yeah,
workers.
exactly. And again,
Yeah.
that those improvements didn't take place. And yeah, that took place over time. That whole 40-hour work week, 5-hour, that's something that takes place over time. Good. Thanks for watching.